The next item of business is topical questions. At question number 1, I call Sandesh Gohani.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what action it's taking in response to reports that the synthetic drug Spice has been found in vapes and are being sold to school children.
Minister Marie Todd.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I believe that Mr Gilhani's question relates to media coverage from the weekend about drug dealers in England using social media platforms to target people and to sell illegal vapes that contain the synthetic drug Spice. The actions of these dealers is illegal. The use of vapes containing harmful substances amongst young people is highly concerning. Social media platforms clearly have a responsibility to support law enforcement and prevent illegal activity on their sites that risks harming young people. And I know that the Minister for Community Safety and the Minister for Children and Young People are leading a new task force looking at online harms and have been engaging with the UK Government to look more closely at the Online Safety Act, which is of course reserved. As well as drug enforcement activity led by Police Scotland, the Scottish Government is taking forward substance use education work in our schools through Curriculum for Excellence. We're also investing £750,000 this year in Planet Youth, a community-led approach to creating healthier environments for young people that prevents substance use.
Sandesh Gohani.
Declaration of interest as a practising NHS GP. This isn't just a problem in England. The threat to our children of vapes laced with illicit substances is becoming ever more terrifying. Last year, data from Scottish local authorities showed that there were 120 incidents in the previous 3 years of school children, some as young as primary school age, using vapes containing illicit substances. In March this year, 2 boys aged just 14 were hospitalised in Dalkeith after inhaling illegal vape laced with Spice. Spice is a highly addictive drug which can cause severe health consequences such as psychosis, seizures and serious heart problem. This drug should be nowhere near our children. I assume the Minister shares my concern that urgent action needs to be taken to prevent serious harm to our children. And so what tangible action will she take?
Minister.
So I certainly do share the member's concern, and we do know from data within Scotland, from Public Health's early warning system, the Rapid Action Drug Alert and Response, or the RADAR, that has flagged an increase in reports of THC in synthetic cannabis vapes, so it is not entirely restricted to England. As I mentioned, whilst regulation of the internet remains a reserved matter, we have successfully engaged with the UK Government to strengthen protections for children in its Online Safety Act. Ofcom, as the regulator, have published codes of practice for online platforms of illegal harms and protecting children from harm online, and will continue to work with the UK Government and with Ofcom on implementation of the Act and to press for stronger protections to keep children and young people safe online. And the Scottish Government's Ministerial Online Safety Task Force, as I mentioned, led by the Minister for Children and Young People in the Promise, the Minister for Victims and Community Safety, is absolutely focused on strengthening our approach to keeping children safe online.
Sandesh Gohani.
Potentially, Spice could be a gateway drug to addiction. The Scottish Government cannot afford to be complacent. There's been a sharp increase in overall drug deaths in 2025 in the first quarter, over 33% more suspected drug deaths than the previous quarter. And the latest figures from April to June show that drug deaths rose 11% compared to the same period in 2014. Scotland, for the 7th year in a row, is still the drug death capital of Europe. Successive drug ministers have told us that drug consumption rooms save lives, yet there's no tangible evidence to support these claims. The facts are being ignored, and SNP are ploughing ahead with plans for another drug consumption facility in Edinburgh. And this simply won't help our children who are vaping and consuming drugs. Minister, is it not time that the Scottish Government took a new approach to tackling the drug death crisis in Scotland?
Minister.
So let me be clear with the member, as I have been many times before, that the safer drug consumption room isn't the only tool in our box that we are deploying against the dreadful toll of drugs deaths that we are experiencing in Scotland. It is one of a range of evidence-based harm reduction opportunities that we have, as well as the safer drug consumption facility, which actually doesn't cover vapes. So wandered off in quite a different direction. There is no potential for inhalation there. It's only an injection facility. But as well as that, we have widened access to treatment. We have increased the number of funded places to residential rehab. We have increased the capacity of residential rehab. We have rolled out a world-leading naloxone programme, which means that all of our frontline staff, like police, like ambulance, like community pharmacists, all have access to life-saving naloxone in the event of overdoses nearby. The member is correct. The figures from this year are alarming. The statistics out today of suspected drugs deaths for the first 6 months of the year show a 3% increase. And we're very aware of the risks that that poses. Very keen to work with the UK Government on the issue of drug checking facilities, which I think will reduce the level of contamination that we're experiencing in the market, causing so much harm in Scotland.
Claire Haughey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I remind Chamber that I am employed as a bank nurse by NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. The rise in the use of synthetic drugs is a concern, and Radar has been clear that nitazines and synthetic opioids are highly dangerous due to their potency. Can the Minister therefore outline what steps can be taken to reduce the risk of overdose, for example through the use of naloxone kits, and how members in this chamber can help to inform people about the risks posed?
Minister.
The member is absolutely correct. So the increased prevalence of the new synthetic substances like nitazines is of real concern, not just here in Scotland, but across the whole of the UK and indeed globally. We are working hard to respond to the growing threat from these highly dangerous synthetic substances. They can be hundreds of times more potent than heroin, and they can increase the risk of overdose, hospitalisation and death. That's what we're seeing in our early statistics from the start of this year. We're working with partners to communicate vital information and advice. I would encourage anyone who might be affected to familiarise themselves with that advice, including the new nitazene alert that was issued by Public Health Scotland on the 12th of August. This stresses that whilst there is absolutely no safe way to take nitazines, there are ways to reduce the risk of harm and overdose. The drug purchased might not always be the drug that's expected to be. Harm reduction advice is to take the smallest amount you can, leave as long as you can between doses, and to make sure that there are people around who can respond in the event of an emergency. I'd also urge anyone who carries naloxone to consider carrying extra life-saving kits with them, because we know that because of the high potency of nitazene, repeat doses are very likely to be required.
Paul Sweeney.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Product safety is at the heart of this issue, and of course these vapes are being marketed not as containing spice, they're marketed as containing THC. The Bath University study covered around 2,000 vapes across 114 schools in 7 regions in England, and found that contamination with spice ranged from 13% to 25% in the case of London and Lancashire. Would the Minister consider undertaking a similar discrete study in Scotland to understand the prevalence of spice contamination in vapes in schools in Scotland and ensure that we can then take preventative measures accordingly?
Minister.
So, as I said, we are aware from the radar system that there is spice in being detected in vape products here in Scotland as well. I'll certainly give some consideration to the idea of an academic study. I read with interest the study from Bath. Let me be absolutely clear though, selling Class B drugs like spice is already illegal. Selling vapes to children is already illegal, and using online social media platforms to target children and young people to sell drugs is illegal. Anyone who has information regarding people involved in the supply of illegal vapes should contact Police Scotland on 101 or Crime Stoppers.
Thank you. Question number 2, Mark Griffin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to reports that Scottish local authorities spent over £100 million last year on bed and breakfast and hostel accommodation for homeless people.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville.
The Scottish Government's ambition is to prevent homelessness as part of our housing bill and for Everly homeless households to have a settled home that meets their needs. The solution is to deliver more homes and to make better use of the homes we have. Last week, the Cabinet Secretary for Housing set out plans to invest up to £4.9 billion in affordable homes over the next 4 years. We are doubling the funding available for acquisitions to £80 million this year, so that councils and housing associations can purchase properties for those households who are spending too long in temporary accommodation. We will also invest an additional £4 million this year to expand the delivery of Housing First tenancies.
Mark Griffin.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. The Cabinet Secretary will know that it costs councils around £11,000 to deal with each homeless application. With almost 4,000 homeless applications made in Edinburgh alone last year, does the Cabinet Secretary agree that councils should be able to spend the limited funds that they have on preventing homelessness rather than firefighting the effects of a housing emergency? And how does the Scottish Government plan on supporting local authorities cover this increased cost, which is up 128% since 2020-2021?
Cabinet Secretary.
Can I thank Mark Griffin for his questions today, because I think it is very important that we do focus on what can be done both at Scottish Government, local government and UK Government level to tackle the unacceptable levels, particularly of children that are in temporary accommodation. And that's exactly why it's been good to see that positive progress has been made in a number of local authorities, including Aberdeenshire, East Ayrshire, East Lothian and South Ayrshire, to give some examples, all of which have consistently seen decreases in the number of open applications, homelessness applications and in temporary accommodation use. The funding which is provided by the Scottish Government to local authorities, as well as through the general grant, it's also important to recognise the work that is undertaken through Scottish Government funds, which looks particularly at the preventive methods, and I've mentioned some of the additional funding we'll be providing this year, but also the work that we do to provide support to councils, particularly, but not solely Glasgow and Edinburgh, who are seeing some of the increased pressures affecting them most considerably. Although the issue is an issue throughout Scotland, we are seeing progress in many local authorities.
Mark Griffin.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary again for that response and acknowledge the action that's been outlined today and by the Cabinet Secretary for Housing last week in the Chamber. But the housing crisis hasn't appeared overnight. It's been nearly 18 months since the Government declared a housing emergency, and since then record numbers of children are being placed in temporary accommodation, often in the most appalling and unsafe conditions. Council workers report that they've seen very little change in the Government's approach from before and after that declaration. And I think from the statement last week, it's not enough to say that we can help a few hundred children. The use of B&Bs and hostels for homeless children should end, and should end immediately. Can the Cabinet Secretary commit to ending the scandal of children in bed and breakfast and hostel accommodation entirely as a priority of this Government?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, we are working very hard with our local authority partners to ensure that particularly families with children, but not solely families with children, are accommodated correctly. And for example, Presiding Officer, 2,700 households with children have been assisted into affordable housing since December 2024. And that is part of the work that the Government has been doing in our delivery of 139,000 homes, 99,000 for social rent since 2007. It is very important that we look at how we can best make use of our existing stock through the work on voids in the social rented sector, but also on properties within the private sector that are empty, and that's exactly why additional funding has been going in. And that's exactly why, on top of the work that the Cabinet Secretary for Housing announced last week, that clearly builds on the work that's already been undertaken on acquisitions, on empty homes, on voids, to ensure that we are delivering both for local authority and RSLs to support them in providing good, affordable homes.
Helena Whittam.
Can the Cabinet Secretary advise what further help can be provided to local authorities to maximise the use of actual housing for temporary accommodation versus using the totally unacceptable and below tolerable standard hotels? I have seen this firsthand when we disinvested from such accommodation in North Ayrshire when working in the homelessness team, making a monumental difference to the person being supported, providing a safer and more secure stopover whilst waiting for a permanent tenancy. And this reduced overall costs to the Council and improved the lives of those involved. Given the pressures on supply, this is now even more challenging, but fundamental for the dignity, along with deploying those really important prevention measures.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, it is very important to ensure we do all we can with our local authority partners to deliver that affordable homes. That's exactly why the Cabinet Secretary for Housing announced last week a doubling of the acquisitions investment from 40 million to 80 million for this financial year. And we have again requested that councils prioritise the acquisition of family homes and to contact every household with children in quality temporary accommodation to establish whether those homes can be made permanent. Local authorities already have the ability to do so. There are many local authorities that use that with terms as flipping as a very useful piece of their housing policy. There are other local authorities that can do more in that instance. And it is very important that we look at what can be done, as I say, with the social rented housing that we have, but also the support that the Scottish Government is providing on top of the previous 40 million, now 80 million, to acquire more homes, as well as the building of additional housing in and of itself is very important.
Thank you. That concludes topical questions. I'll allow a moment or two for front benches to organise before we move to the next item of business.